Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Orange County Funding Corporation Governance Committee meeting. I'd like to call that meeting to order and ask Bill to do the roll call.
Yes, Jeffrey Christ.
Here.
Dean Tambury.
Here.
Dr. Vincent Hoda.
Here.
Linda Muller.
Here.
All right, 4 committee members present. Excused absence, Giovanni Palladino, and he's a committee member not here. Myself, Bill Fioravanti, Kelly Riley, Marty Barras as staff. Billy Iverson for acquisitions marketing, doing our AV, and we have our 2 guests, Anthony Bracco and Lisa Coughlin from Anshin, our state monitor.
Thank you, Bill. We do have proof of notice in our meeting packet that the meeting was duly noticed. And the first item on the agenda this afternoon is approval of the minutes from the February 15th, 2024 OCFC Governance Committee meeting. If anyone has any additions, corrections, or a motion to approve those, so speak. They're pretty brief.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Dean Tambury, a motion to approve the minutes for February 15th.
Second.
Second by Doc Odock. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Abstain.
And you weren't here.
I wasn't
Linda abstained, so 3 in favor, 1 abstention. Moving on to new business, and that's the bylaws review. Bill, would you lead us off on that,
Yes,
please?
so we're just, of course, this administration and board inherited both our bylaws, and we'll get to our handbook, our employee handbook as well. We've changed just a few things that we needed to, just with all the, we came in dealing with a lot, right? So we changed the little things that we had to as we were, for example, dismantling the accelerator program. But we really need a kind of a deeper look into the bylaws review to make sure that it's up to date, it's current, it applies. And Linda Muller, our, of course, newest board member, has been willing, especially has a lot of governance experience, and was willing to help lead that process. Not saying it's all on her shoulders, but she's willing to lead that for both OCFC and OCIDA.
Excellent. Anything else related to those, unless board members have comments at this point? They're fairly lengthy at 14 pages. And you're okay with looking into this,
Yep.
Linda?
Yep.
And interacting with Bill and
With Bill.
council and any other board member, as far as I'm concerned.
As long as I've got a little moment in time to get this done, and you
Yeah.
don't expect me
Of
to get
course.
it done in a week.
Of course. No.
Do we have our next governance committee meeting
We
scheduled?
haven't yet, but that's something, and I don't think I'm prepared to really give
Yeah,
a date right now,
okay.
but
I presume that would be a couple months out.
exactly.
So I think I'd be comfortable in saying we could have draft bylaws for that committee
Yes.
meeting. For
Terrific.
review and then consideration, and then whatever the
Great.
process is to approve them following that discussion.
That was my next question. So we're gonna look through, obviously, Linda, I appreciate you doing this. Make suggestions that'll come back to another governance meeting?
Yes, this
Yeah.
will all go through governance.
Once governance goes through it, right, so we should expect a few meetings.
I think so, Linda,
Yes.
I would, with all due respect, I would really think that it would be fine to even have one iteration before that where you're just maybe identifying things that you think should be changed and updated, and then maybe getting this committee's feedback on that.
Well, that's why you do a draft, so you do a draft.
And then do a draft, okay, right, you do a
Everybody gets a
draft.
copy of the draft, you can do a red line copy with any comments or concerns, bring them back. Last draft would be then for approval. If it doesn't make the approval, then you go on, but I don't think this doesn't really need to go on for 4 months.
No,
I think that would be.
And so some
overkill.
August timeframe we'll kind of shoot for, I think, right, for governance.
Mhm.
August
So-
timeframe being June 10th? Did you say 2 months you want to come back? July, August?
I would say I'd like to look at my schedule to,
Mid-August or
before we,
something?
Mid-August is a problem.
Okay, well, let's talk after the
Yeah,
meeting, so
we'll
I don't
get
like
back.
discussing
Yeah.
dates in this
Yeah.
meeting, so it's.
So the process would be that if Linda, again, thank you, that she would go through that, she would send it out to us, and then we maybe get back to her with a couple of comments.
In
whatever,
advance of the
obviously
next
everybody
governance
involved.
If I could, if everyone has a copy of the bylaws now, correct?
Yeah.
So if you have any issues or things that you
Mhm.
want, just send them to me,
Okay.
copy Bill, we can incorporate them, we'll have those, that's how we do a draft for the next upcoming meeting. We'll incorporate all of your comments, after review by our CEO, put that together, bring them back, and then a last final review before approval.
Okay.
And if I can, I don't know that it's in your scope necessarily, but I'll put it to the ancient folks that, again, we're trying to improve all the time. So if you look at any of that, you have any input, best practices, anything at all, please offer it up for us.
Sure,
If you
so
would.
we'd be happy to take a look at any, redlined version
Right.
that you have, so before any changes are made and approved,
Terrific.
we can take a look.
Thank you.
I don't know that you need to vote to, assign Linda this or anything, but we
I
at least
wouldn't
want to
think
cover
so.
this meeting.
Yeah, we have a consensus on a plan here to move forward with the bylaws review, so. Any other business that should come before the governance committee today for the OCFC? Hearing none, I'd suggest a motion to adjourn
So moved.
by Linda, second by Dean. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
This we can keep going. Yeah.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Orange County Industrial Development Agency Governance Committee meeting for today, June 10th, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order and ask Bill to do the roll call.
Sure, 4:26 PM, Jeff Christ,
Here.
Dean Tamburri,
Here.
Dr. Vincent Oda,
Yeah.
Linda Muller.
Here.
Okay, all four committee members present. Again, staff, Bill Fioravanti, Kelly Riley, Marty Barras, Billy Iverson on AV, no one on remote, and Anthony Bracco and Lisa Coughlin from Angel.
Very good. Thank you. And we do have proof of notice in our packet that this meeting was duly noticed. And moving on to the minutes from our February 15th, 2024 Governance Committee meeting, I would ask for any additions, corrections to those minutes before we take a vote. I would note that some of the issues we're discussing on today's agenda were discussed at that time, and we would continue to follow up on those. Any additions or thoughts on those minutes? A motion to accept would be appreciated.
Make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Dean. Doc, you okay with a second on those?
Yes, second.
Thank you.
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Linda was not here at the time, so she's abstaining from that vote. New business, bylaws review. Bill?
Okay, so just as we discussed in OCFC governance, we're looking to review really comprehensively our bylaws for OCIDA, present a draft, and ultimately bring it to the board for adoption of revised bylaws for IDA. And again, Linda Muller has graciously offered to take this on, as she did with OCFC. So just, that's what we're looking for on this piece, first item.
And that note, we have a copy of the current bylaws in our packet.
Correct.
I don't know if, Linda, would you like to say anything at this point?
Just two things. These were amended on 2/15/23 and approved by the board
Yes.
at whatever meeting that
Correct.
happened at. So these are the
Good point.
current approved bylaws. Okay.
Absolutely. Right, Kelly and Marty, would you say?
Yes.
I mean, to put you on the spot, but I think we're, yeah. So
Okay.
that was after, again, changes we made, taking out a couple
Okay.
titles and things like that.
Got it. Thank you.
And the adjustments for the accelerator are not made yet?
We did make those. Those were
Okay.
made in February of '23, exactly. We had a little confusion on that, but we did
Okay.
make those. Those were actually removed at that time.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
that's
yes,
right, yes. Very good. So I think similar to OCFC, over the next couple of months, Linda will
Yep.
explore, and board members can certainly take a look, get your input, Bill.
Yep.
I assume we would compare those thoughts with council's guidance.
Yep, of course. And
So-
again, give the ancient the opportunity to weigh in a little bit, just to give us
Exactly.
some.
And then just again, for the board members, as you review the document, if you see something that you have a question about or think we need to change, make those recommendations, send them back so we can incorporate them for a red line copy.
Is there some kind of basic bylaw chart of things that should be considered just generically for IDAs or public authorities. If there's something that isn't in them now that maybe we should consider. I don't know
They
who's.
have been reviewed by multiple councils,
Yeah,
including our
that's a good
current general
point.
counsel, so I think they have everything in there
Okay,
that
good.
statutorily are supposed to be in there. And I do think you see a lot of standard stuff in there.
Sure.
I think that where my comfort level is that the board, the bylaws should be reviewed and approved every year
Yes.
to ensure that they're valid and that they still meet the requirements of the IDA and any changes that have been made. So we're trying to get it on a schedule that it's been to the board, reviewed, changes approved, if there are any changes, and that will just make life a lot easier.
We would have reviewed briefly at the beginning of the year.
We
and
did, actually. We did,
confirmed.
we had, actually in a governance committee meeting, I think
Oh,
it was in
okay.
December.
Okay,
Because that is, and it's something I think we're becoming more firm on, is
Yeah.
hey, we were supposed to review all the policies, so we did that, I went through all that. And I had kind of said that at the time, we were looking to change local labor policy in the UTEP.
Mhm.
I don't think I had necessarily identified anything with the bylaws at the time. And then the second item on our agenda, if we could, the employee handbook, that's a little more convoluted, because quite frankly, and I'm sorry we don't have our general counsel Susan Katz up on, but we're still not 100% sure which version this board ever approved. We have a couple, there's a little discrepancy there, so we have to figure it out. Because we do have a staffing agency, Ethan Allen Staffing Services. They do our payroll, for example, and they also help us with some of these HR type of duties, including a handbook. But this became an issue when a few months ago, they kind of sent us, we said, can you just send us a copy of our latest, our approved? And they sent something, but they said, oh, we just made some improvements to it, some enhancements based upon laws, and so that's when we said, well, our board has to approve it or it's not our policy. So we do believe that there have been several iterations of changes
to the employee
that haven't
handbook.
to the employee handbook that haven't necessarily been adopted. So it's another, project to first of all undertake it. What do we need? Linda and I have looked at it and talked about it, and she's been very clear that, what is it, 80 pages, 60 pages?
I had 740 staff members in my business, and I did not have.
You're like 20-page.
Really, it's, yeah.
So, again, that's where we want to lean on her expertise there. So we think we have a lot of cleaning up to do, plus we want to make sure that whatever version it is, it's approved by the board, it's adopted.
Absolutely.
And we figure out between us and EA staffing, what other changes would be made. Certainly, I don't think they just make changes unless they're brought to the board for consideration.
Doc?
Yeah, it would be interesting to look at other bylaws from other ideas.
I
And
agree.
things we may copy from that. I'm not saying it should be a carbon copy, just
Sure.
see what we can find out.
Linda, if you'd like any of that, I can get that
Sure.
for you, because, kind of know it now in my time with New York State EDC and others, who the really are performing IDAs are and
Good-
kind of the
good point.
models. So we can get you some of that easily.
One or two copies.
Okay.
It would be more than sufficient.
And I think you alluded to it, Bill, but the bylaw review now is a deeper dive to more carefully take a current look with the current board at what needs to be or should be changed, if anything. Where in December, it was kind of a quick review of
It
all our
was.
policies, so.
So on the.
Before we had Linda, frankly, pardon me.
Right,
So I knew we
sure.
had a little more talent to address that.
Good point.
The employee handbook has got a blue line copy, which are suggested changes. Were those approved?
I think the
No,
last,
that staff line updated the handbook based on New York State laws, and those were the changes, and they wanted us to see what those changes were.
And then they need those changes, assuming that's what we're gonna hold, they need to come to the board for approval. So
Correct.
Exactly.
this is not the current iteration of the document.
not board-approved official policy, no.
Okay.
Everything but the book.
The blue was, I think, in this version, the most recent suggestions from EA staffing. Or most recent additions, or, changes, but again, not board sanctioned, so
Got it.
they're not official.
So a lot of
And I'm
this-
sorry, Dean, but we
That's
just
okay.
kind of discovered that this is how this is
That's-
working.
that's
So
okay.
it's
That's
another
okay.
one of these ones where I don't love reporting exactly the way
No,
it is,
no,
but
no,
we're straightening it out now.
But we realize there was a lot we've done, so, but, so a lot of this may or may not be like as you're saying, Linda, that it's so much information, but is a lot of that because it's plugged in from, you know, state requirements or something?
Well, if you look,
Laws,
some of these
whatever?
things that, you know, when you're looking at will employment, and there's some things that are in New York State statute, there are some things that are in federal statute, those of course have to be documented
Mhm.
appropriately. I don't know, I've not gone through it, so I really don't wanna make a comment other than
No.
this
Right.
is not the document
Yeah.
that this is not what you're living by. Or you kind of sort of, but without board
Sure.
approval, I got it.
And I don't mean to disparage our staffing company there, but I think it's a little bit of, you know, proving your own existence here, where they're making sure it's got everything it is, and that doesn't mean we have to have it, you know, in our particular, you know, handbook necessarily. So I think it's all great input, but we have to decide what's essential here. Another opportunity to maybe look at some other IDAs and what, you know, what they're
Yep.
using and not using.
And are we thinking this is a similar timetable to the bylaw review, or we might need a
I
little
don't want
more
to ask Linda
time?
that one, 'cause I don't want to give her too much homework.
I haven't seen this document. Bylaws are a little easier
Yes.
to fix.
I think so.
When you're gonna look at a document that's this voluminous, I don't know. I need a couple of weeks to just try to digest this and see what's here.
That's perfectly okay with me. We want to do it right, and
Yeah.
this may take a little longer.
But we will absolutely get it done.
What I'd like to
Excellent.
do early on, and certainly it's on us, and we've been trying to do that, is make sure we have a handle on what version is approved right now, where we
Yeah,
are. I
that's
think, you know,
true.
sooner than later, we want to get that, so.
Mhm.
But I agree, I don't think this is an on-fire priority, but it'd be great for us to work on this and move into the year, get it done.
Yeah, especially our employee handbook needs updating, especially area of compensation, benefits and so on, yeah.
That's going to take a little work.
Definitely.
I would think at the very least, we want to have it complete by the end of the year.
Sooner if we can.
Yes. So we have it set for next year.
And then the same thing is, again, approvals on a yearly basis affecting any changes that might be
Exactly.
state or federal, or any other changes that might affect them, that we would incorporate them.
Perfect. Are we ready to move on to staff title
I think so.
changes?
I
Bill?
think so. And this is something I've been, you know, warning many of you, it's just something it's really been, it's long overdue if you ask me. Kelly, as you all know, she's been here since 2009. She's worked in many other capacities. When all the malfeasance was uncovered and this new administration came in, a new board, she basically was thrown into this position and managing finance, et cetera, and the administration of the IDA, you know, mechanics. But she held on to her project manager title. We hired Marty, who was an employee here for a while in the past. We kind of brought her back. And initially she was doing minutes and, you know, more clerical type of work. And Marty is to say she's the right hand of Kelly. I mean, I think it's a right hand and a left hand, frankly, when it comes again to administration for the IDA. So I really just wanted to get their compensation in order, which we did, and make sure we clean up these titles too. Because, you know, I think a lot of us don't use these titles because I don't think they speak to really the work they do. So we, rather than even use them. So Kelly, I'm looking to go from her project manager title to a director of administration. And for Marty, currently administrative assistant, which really it just pales in comparison to the work she does, finance and compliance manager. I will say that I did research from IDAs all over the state, especially, and some beyond, and looked at their positions, talked to some people at the last conference in Cooperstown I went to a few weeks ago about this, and also, of course, talked to the team, and these are titles that we think are appropriate, in line with, you know, as director, you have to have someone reporting to you, this, that, and the other, and our council has seen this as well. So I'm hoping this is something that you folks have no problem blessing, and we get this right for the staff.
Well, I'm in favor of these title changes, but welcome any input from the committee, and then that would be a recommendation to the full board, I assume?
Correct.
Any thoughts on
I
this?
do have a question. Regardless of the change in title, are there job descriptions that are attached to these?
Good question.
There are, and we would adjust those, because I have been, basically the performance reviews I've been doing for staff have been the work that they're doing, not necessarily what this title speaks to. So I think those have been a bit of an evolution, and I think we need to review this. Let's put it that way. That's actually, I want to give you a complete answer. I think They are pretty in line, and we just make the title changes, but I'd like to do a review and make sure that they fit for what what their two respective roles are.
Right, you just need to make sure that, titles to me they're not that important.
Yep.
It's the job description.
Sure.
Because you're gonna base your evaluations on the ability to execute your job description.
Definitely.
Now, with the new title goes with compensation too, increase in compensation?
No, not necessarily. That's something that we're trying to correct over the last couple of years, making sure compensation and benefits were in line with what they should be. And we're good there, but the positions, titles were frankly just outdated. So this is just about the titles, not changing compensation, and not specifically changing job duties, but I think Linda's suggestion of making sure that everything fits, doing a proper review is right.
We're kind of catching up, correcting the titles here after the other stuff has already happened.
Exactly.
Dean?
So I was just like, so would there be like a whole list of, or just currently, would there be a list of other types of, even though they're not,
Titles or anything?
yeah, titles that.
We had in our
positions that
bylaws,
have
we've removed a
full-
couple of positions
what I
that were no
was- that's what I
longer,
was
so
gonna
I
say,
think
yeah,
it's, I don't think we'll change that right now, we'll just get these titles and again, compensation in order, and then that's just something down the road. Because we've talked about bringing back a chief operating officer or something like that, that was a position that was here, something we contemplated, but, that's in the future, so I don't think we do that yet. I don't know that we want to establish positions for the future yet. I think I'd like to just kind of keep things the way they are, and then we see what our needs are down the road. Kind of how I'm approaching it.
And I might just point out, we brought on a consultant to help with our Fast New York shovel-ready program with the Arden Brook.
Yep.
So there may be times we need some additional expertise and assistance, and that's a case where we're beginning to address it.
Well, you're making me think that I do want a COO, but yes, for all these, you're reminding me of all these extra things we have, but yes, so far we're making it work though.
Very good. We probably should take a motion on these titles as
Yes,
part
please.
of our recommendation to the
Recommendation to
board.
the full board, yes.
Would anyone care to make the motion that we adjust these titles as proposed?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Dean. Second to that motion? You good, Doc? Thank you. Second by Doc Oduck. Any other discussion on that?
I would ask the board to consider, I know how important this is to you and staff to change the title, but I'd like to see the alignment of job descriptions to titles before I would say I
Okay.
could move.
We can have that in your packet for the board meeting at the end of the week.
Yeah.
I'll review that and get them in for Thursday.
I think that would make me far more comfortable. So I think we should hold the approval until we see what the job description looks like.
For the titles,
Correct.
which would mean not vote today. On
We
the
can,
motion.
we can modify the vote that once we receive
Oh, okay.
the information, that we
I
can
got it.
then move it at the board meeting. But I think it's pending the receipt of the job descriptions.
So you're
No problem.
suggesting we ask Dean to revise his motion that we support the title changes, but we want to have it accompanied by the job description. And we could vote on that.
Sure. And if I'm amending those as a result of that review, then we'll bring that to the board
Correct.
for that. Okay, great.
You okay with that,
Get
Dean?
that out by Thursday.
Yeah, but are we voting on something we don't have in front of us then? Is that what, I mean, that's my whole thing. is that-
We're saying, I guess I should word it better, before that recommendation is completed to the board, we want to have the job description to compare. But I think we can make the motion with that qualification today in a vote. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You okay with that?
Yes.
So if we don't have the job description, then that recommendation isn't going to carry forward
Correct.
for the board.
Okay,
And it'll be worded that way in our minutes.
okay.
Any other discussion on this motion, revised motion, I should say? Let's have a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, nobody opposed, motion carried.
Great.
Excellent. And local labor policy revision.
Yep. Last item for today. I think the pertinent language for you to look at are between pages 63 and page 67, just those two, frankly. Everything in between is just extra pages from our local labor policy, not pertinent to this discussion. But you see, we included on page 63, a highlighted line from our local labor policy. And then if you go to page 67, we're looking to replace the highlighted section with the quoted, the language in quotes. The 85% shall be borne by each primary contractor, including their subcontractors, and in total at the time of completion of the project. Let me just explain here for a second. So, what I believe it was something like 2016, we first implemented a local labor policy. At the urging of the local laborers, frankly, and they're totally right, I'm so glad we did it. It's something that I was explaining to the monitors earlier, we absolutely believe in the spirit of that policy, we uphold it. It's something that helps defend us in ways too, because it really helps explain, coming to the IDA ensures that your projects will be built locally, first of all. So we had a policy that essentially was 85% of your entire construction labor workforce had to be from the local workshed. And by the way, you'll recall, because we amended this not too long ago, it's 8 counties right now. It's all the ones you think of in the Mid-Hudson, Orange, Sullivan, Ulster, Dutchess, Putnam, Westchester, Rockland, and then we added Delaware County because a lot of our laborers come from that area. Again, it used to be just 85% of the whole job. 85% of those workers need to be local. Then we amended it again at the urging of the local laborers to make it even more stringent, where it became 85%, not just of the whole job, but of every single subcontract. And speaking of some items that came up in our last waiver request, carpet installation, that would all have to be 85%, every single thing. And it became problematic, at least just from my observation over the last 3.5 years I've been here, working with our former local labor monitoring firm, Loki Brill, who this is all they do, is the monitoring. And then we did an RFP, of course, for 2 local firms that we hired, Lan and Fellenser. They've identified the same thing, that when the 85% is for every single subcontract, you could have a tiny, I use the carpeting again, if you have 4 men or women on that job, all 4 need to be local, or you don't need 85%. And it's tough to do. So really what this is looking to do is, I'll add that the Montgomery IDA basically modeled their local labor policy after the Orange County IDAs. The language is very, very similar. But they ran into the same problem, especially with Loki Brill identifying the challenge and the jobs they went out on, and they made a tweak to their policy exactly the way I'm looking to, where it just, most subcontracts, again, and Dean could do a much better job of explaining it, but they're under a prime contractor. We have the main GC, and then you have primes, electrical, and then subs under that. So each prime and its subs would be its own 85%. And it just makes it much more workable. Again, it really, I've talked to Montgomery many times about it. It solved their challenges there. And again, every single monitor that we've worked with so far has identified it as being challenging. So that's what we're looking to do. It'll just kind of streamline our work and make it just more fair, I think, for the applicants to abide by.
Questions, comments, board, or committee, I should say?
So in other words, they would still have 85%, but like if the carpet was under the, say it was under the carpentry package.
Yes.
Then he's saying he's 90% per se, or whatever. So those other, they're including it, they're in it, but it doesn't bring it down to the 85.
Yeah, let's say it's 50%. You have 4 guys there and 2 are local.
Right.
Well, that gets factored in with the rest of that, the contractor's package, exactly. That's exactly what it's
I understand what you're saying. However, though, even with the carpet, right, as simple as it was the carpet, they had said, geez, if I knew, I could have used.
Well, that was, yeah, that
So
that was a different example, you're right. But it has
like,
been a problem with some of these smaller contracts, these subs, especially when there's a smaller amount of workers that they can't, they have one person to disqualify.
Right, my only thing is like, I don't know, I mean, we're not talking, I remember we had that fence issue, but they were like, again.
Another different
They
issue.
didn't know, though, they were like, we weren't notified of it or whatever. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say, to say no to this, whatever, it's still 85% or whatever.
Right.
If it's a small item, a sub of one of the prime contractors. So, but I would tell you what, so we're approving this today.
Recommending it to the full board.
Correct.
So in between, Dean, if you want to talk like a Matt Stoddard, Montgomery or someone and see what his.
Well, there's other things as well too. I mean, I don't know how much we wanna get into it or whatever, and that would be another governance committee.
Sure.
Correct.
This was just the one piece that for frankly going on 2 years I wanted to fix, because I knew it was a problem. I didn't want to take it lightly, I want to make sure I fully understood it. You know, I reached out to council over in Montgomery IDA, their exec, and talked to, at the conferences I go to, ask what others do. I want to get it right, but it really seemed like this small tweak would fix the problem we've been having.
Okay, I'm not opposed to it, but there's other items that I'd actually like to add into it, like some others have. and we
I think this
just-
is the committee where
and
we'll
we-
do that.
And we discussed that.
You bring that up and we're happy to look at it again.
And it shouldn't be also, it shouldn't be where, I know we've also had an issue where, you know, contractors are calling you or saying, well, what are you talking about? This is ridiculous, or it's not ridiculous, or they want to comply or don't want to comply. And these are the local guys that we wanted to have the job, and they're complaining about some of it.
Exactly.
And it's helped to help protect you, to be on the project in the first place, to hire local people and keep the money in the community. So, and I don't want that to be an issue either, where they're calling you, saying they have, you know, something with the policy. But there was other items that I would like to take a look at it and read through it.
And again, that's
Maybe
what
we
this
could do-
committee is for, let's run it through this committee.
Maybe I could do something similarly to what
Sure.
Linda's doing with
Yeah.
that, and bring back something else.
Why don't you and I
And
talk
add
about
some
it and then we'll
sort
put it
of
on the
timeframe.
agenda.
Okay, but
Okay.
this going forward, I'm okay.
Great.
Okay,
Doc?
now, if you can't find enough local labor, 85%, is there any provision that says you can go outside?
Yeah, so we have a waiver process, a waiver that allows you, you know, a waiver against the policy, that if they can't find the labor, number one, if there's specialty labor, and that's very tricky, that's something we've been trying to kind of
Yeah.
dissect that issue and figure out how we, because we don't want to exclude our local people just because, you know, you need specialty labor, but that's also provision. And then a cost differential. If the out-of-area labor is 20% less expensive than the local, then we can. But the way we've actually effectively been running this, enforcing this, is that we'll encourage the applicant to go back and say to the local bidder, let's say, you're beyond that 20%, give us your best, price. You have to sharpen your pencil, so to speak. We debate a little whether or not we should just give the best bid to those. I don't think that's fair. I think we should just say, you're still not within there, sharpen your pencil, so they're not $1 less than the quote that they see. But those are why we give out waivers, and they, as a reminder, they go through our audit committee. So we had a very involved, and it was a lot of discussion and debate and intense at times, but I'm all for it, frankly, because I think this is not easy. This is an art, not a science, and we'll keep trying to find ways that we really do, as I explained to Anshin, we uphold the spirit of this policy, because I know all of us believe in it, but also at the same time, we're not making it too cumbersome where it's slowing down a project considerably or blowing up their budget or anything like that. We're trying to kind of thread that needle, as I keep saying. So there is a process, though, to answer your question, in case of any of those scenarios.
Thank you.
Any other discussion before we consider a motion to recommend the one piece to the full board? We good? Would anyone care to make that motion that we make the adjustment that we just discussed and is noted on page 67? That 85% shall be borne by each primary contractor, including their subcontractors, and in total at the time of completion of the project.
I'm happy to move the motion.
Thank you, Linda. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Second by Doc Odock. Thank you. Other discussion?
No, that's fine, I just would like to take a look at it.
Sure.
And some other items that we've discussed, and I think we're learning along the way
Yeah.
what we can really do to do
Definitely.
the best we can for the community.
And I think the minutes should show that we're gonna take a deeper dive. But that isn't part of this particular motion, is my understanding. So
Correct.
I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. 4 in favor, nobody opposed, and that recommendation will be included in our minutes to the full board.
Very good. It's the end of our list there, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn unless somebody has anything else for this committee today.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Dean, second by Dakota. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.